I know that a number of viewers have actual Neo Geo video game consoles, and I am very jealous. I've always wanted one. I remember when the Neo Geo came out, the home console version, the AES, in about 1990, I think, and it had a retail price of around $650 for the game system with a game and two joysticks. And seeing that in catalogs and seeing the game prices at $200 per game cartridge was just unbelievable back in 1990. And I couldn't imagine how anybody actually afforded a Neo Geo. And that was kind of the problem with the Neo Geo and the reason that it didn't do very well and it did not last very long. Frankly, it was just ahead of its time. I was a Sega Genesis man back in the day anyway, and that cost a whole lot less than a Neo Geo. But now you can get this fantastic disc for your PlayStation 2, which is a collection of 16 SNK Arcade Classics. The SNK Neo Geo was a unique game system because it was the first time you could have a real arcade machine in your home, because the actual SNK Neo Geo, the MVS, was the heart or inner workings of the arcade machine. It was more efficient, it saved money, they could swap game cartridges out depending on what games did better and what came out. It was really quite brilliant. And you could buy the games for home use too, they just cost a whole lot of money. $200 or more to be exact. The SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1 for the PlayStation 2 is very well organized, very well produced, easy to navigate, and has some tremendous video games on it. I picked this game up for $10, which, if you take into account that each Neo Geo game would have cost around $200, this is $3,200 worth of video games for $10, which is a pretty good deal. In fact, many of these games are still worth a lot of money, like Last Resort. Let's take a look at some of the games on here, which are huge games. Even today, games like Metal Slug, King of Fighters, and Samurai Shodown, which are probably the best known. There's some great games in here you may have never played before, like Last Resort, which is an excellent side-scrolling shooter, sort of like R-Type. Shock Troopers is an Ikari Warrior kind of game. And I thought King of the Monsters was a lot of fun too. These games are played very nicely on the PlayStation 2. You can use the analog controller, which for some of you guys who like the fighting games should work out pretty well. You can also use the D-pad, and I just like the PlayStation 2 controller, so it's nice to have these games work with one of my favorite controllers. If you happen to have an arcade stick that works with your PlayStation 2, that should be like an added bonus. Although I've seen those Neo Geo arcade sticks, and man, they look great. You don't get one of those with this game, unfortunately. I think you actually need a Neo Geo to have one of them. You can unlock different things like artwork and game music, and some button combos for the characters in the fighting games. And what I like about the SNK games in particular, like Metal Slug, is the amount of detail that they put into the backgrounds, into the characters. It's very Japanese, it's very well constructed, it's got these huge chunky pixels. It's like a Sega Genesis game, but twice the power, if that makes any sense. Just the amount of stuff they have going on in the background in some of these games was far beyond what the Genesis was ever able to put out back in the day. This plays out of the PlayStation 2 very nicely. You can use your component cables on your PS2, or if you have the PS3 version that plays PS2 games. So graphically, you're getting a tremendous presentation, an excellent price, and there's so much in this disc to keep you occupied if you like old school arcade games. Especially if you like fighting games.
Fight!
Now that you simply can't go wrong with SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1. And I'll be reviewing each of these games individually because these aren't just cheap games they threw onto one disc. These are excellent arcade games. Now, some of them are better than others, but I'll be starting my SNK reviews off with Metal Slug. Neo Geos are still commanding top dollar in the used marketplace, which is amazing. And it's a cartridge-based system, so they have no moving parts. They should still work really well. And deep down, I still really want one. But in the meantime, you can pick up numerous Neo Geo games on one PlayStation 2 disc, and this is a great place to start your Neo Geo collection.